So, hello everyone. I'll be taking you through um, the starting point machine Oopsie. It's an easy one, and we'll get to do a few other cool things. So, let me share my screen. I guess it's good. Um, just need to change that. Okay, cool. So, I can start by connecting to the VPN, right? And I'll call this pin. Wait, what? That failed. This is not the way to start a session. Yep, it's not going through for some weird reason. So let me just get another one. Uh-huh. So go to, where is it? Is it my profile? Actually, it's connect. So on starting point, and oh, is it because my VIP? Oh, I guess that's the reason. So I'll just do EU. I guess that's good. Then download the VPN. You can just get the file, then try this again. Now we're good. Awesome. So we'll create a directory here, actually here called Oopsie, and then we'll head there to close this. Okay, so I need to restart this page just cause I can't spawn a process if it thinks that I'm offline. There we go. Spawn. And in the meantime, I'll be copying the port scan script to my directory. Okay, cool. Okay, so we got the IP. So I could just do like bash the file and then the IP. And immediately we see there are two ports open, right? So I can now use nmap to provide the specific ports. So I'll do 2280. So I'm doing TAC SCV for service enumeration, TAC T4 to make it a bit faster, so it's the fourth profile. Um, TAC PNs, no ping, I guess, to make it faster, so it doesn't do a ping on each packet it sends. And yeah, I guess that's good. Okay, so yeah, we got the data back. So there's port 22 running this SSH, and the version is OpenSSH 7.6 P1, which is not the latest version, but then It's not really, there's nothing much you can do there. Then there's port 80 running HTTP, and the version is Apache 2.4.29. So the first thing I usually do if I'm doing a box competitively is I run dnum, and then I'll give it the IP of the box. And what dnum is supposed to do is it goes to the web page and it checks, okay, do we have a .htb? It actually depends on what platform I'm using. If I'm playing on TriAcme, it will check, okay, is there a .thm? So what that does is if it gets a domain on the web page, it's going to try to subdomain brute force, right? But in this case, since there isn't any that came back, we can't really do that unless we maybe find the domain somewhere, maybe a note or something. So next I'll do dir enum, and this just does a simple directory brute force. So yeah, pretty much. So we can leave this running as we check the web page. Oops, yeah, it copied that to my clipboard. So let me copy the IP here and try view the web page, right? Okay, so it looks like this. I guess so. The title is welcome. You can see it's a mega automotive. Um, introducing blah blah blah. So nothing much. Normally, if I'm doing a Windows machine, I'd be looking for users, but since this is Linux, I'd just try click on everything and see whether there's anything interesting. So there's really nothing here, right? And this is still going. I need to reduce the number of threads though. I just remember this is a starting point machine, so let me just do um just rewrite this. So copy the path to the word list. What else? I do auto calibration, and then the threads I'll do like 50. So that looks much better, and I need to add fuzz here. So I guess that's more decent. I'm not really surprised, like nothing's going on. This is starting point, so things are a bit slow. Anyway, let's check the page source. So there's nothing much here. This CSS scripts. Normally I'd be looking for a comment, maybe for hidden folder. You don't like you wouldn't see that in HackTheBox machines because they're not CTFE. So but it's just good to check. So let's see. We have this directory here, the cdn cgi, and then slash scripts, and then it's loading a JavaScript file, but that's just for, I guess, the look of it. Maybe it's vanilla JS. Um, the thing I'm interested in is this, where it says C. I guess I should just zoom in here. It says cdn cgi, then slash login, then loading a script.js. So that's interesting. Let me check. Puff. Still hasn't come back with anything. That's okay. So we'll just copy this directory here and try see what's here, right? Um, so it's a login page, so this is good. We could try see what the JavaScript file had. Maybe it had creds, but there are no creds here, right? So let's go back to the web page. We could try default creds, right? We could try admin. We could try admin password. Could try admin password 123. We could try admin or 1 equals 1. That doesn't work, right? So I guess from here now, I could see there's login as guest. So I was trying to log in as admin, right? So let's try like guest. Doesn't work. So let's just go with, okay, log me in as guest. I'm cool. Um, okay. So it says I'm logged in as guest. I could check accounts. So here we have details of our account, right? Our access ID is 2233, and then guest, and the email is right there. Go to branding, same thing. Go to clients, just details, right? Uploads. So in uploads, it said this action it should actually be requires. So this action requires super admin rights. I see someone typing. I don't know what's that about. Maybe it's nothing. Okay. So it says this requires super admin rights, yeah? The thing I want you to see is when it's displaying this info right here, it's telling us the ID. So it's giving us like, it's telling us hints uh, of how it's displaying this data, right? So in real sense, you could control this. And now this is what we call an IDOR vulnerability, right? And I believe John has had a child on this, on a similar thing, right? So if it's querying the ID as 2 and then displaying this, what if we change this to 1, right? And you see now it says, okay, the access ID for the um the account of ID1 is this, and the name is admin. So this is good because if you go to uploads, it was telling us it requires subadmin rights. So maybe that is what we need. So I'm going to copy the access ID, and I'm going to go and check the cookies, and you can see we have a role of guest and a user of this. So if we would check this before looking at the IDOR, maybe try change the role to admin and see whether that affects anything. If you go to uploads, we still don't have access. So I'm guessing um, the way that the web server is configured is it's allowing you to do certain things um, going back to the access ID. So it's not about the role, it's working with the access ID. So the idle was a win. So if we put that, refresh, and now we have the upload functionality open to us. So we can upload a file here, right? So if we browse, let's see, we could start by just uploading anything, right? So I could go like pictures, wallpapers, upload this, and it says it has been uploaded, right? Now, the good thing about doing a directory brute force is you could know where the upload directory is, right? So right now we don't know just cause the directory brute force decided to um not tell us anything, right? So we could try, like, I know like most upload pages are in uploads, right? So if we try that, it says you do not have permission to access this resource, right? But normally with most of these upload directories is it will tell you you don't have permission just cause you don't know the name of the file, right? So it doesn't want to list the files for you. It just wants you to know what the file is. It's not the best way of doing it, but then it gets more secure than just listing all the files that are uploaded, right? So we could try, the name of the file was, I guess, index.jpg, and we have it, right? So we could get code execution this way if, I guess, let me go back to uploads. We could try upload a PHP file. So could do a really simple one. Do PHP system request cmd, like that. So what this does is it's calling system on our cmd parameter that we pass, right? So it's gonna execute code that way. And I like using request instead of get because request there's a way request kind of passes your input. So like if you put input without like if you put input with spaces, it's going to URL encode that for you. So unlike get, yeah, that's why I like using it. So could come back here, go to starting point with this machines, Oopsie, RCE, and upload this, right? So it says it's uploaded, so there was no restriction in terms of the file type, so that's good. And when you get there, we just see a blank page. So normally when I say this, I'd be like, yes, I'm in, because what's happening is it's a blank page just because you haven't provided anything to the script, right? So it's really doing nothing. Um, we didn't tell it to do anything, if at all. We didn't pass anything as the parameter to CMD, right? So we could do like CMD equals ID, and that failed terribly. Really? Oh, our file is no longer there. That's cool. I guess there's like a cron that's deleting files. So let's re-upload this and come back here and say CMD equals ID, and we get data, right? So I just type shell and then execute this, and I get a shell. I know you've wondered like what's going on there. So like the minute I type shell, the first thing it does is, so there's this file I have here with, so HTTP, there's this X file I have that has like things. So this is a script it will run um when I call it on the box. So it will try all of this. So if this fails, it will try this. This fails. Yeah, it's just a better way of getting a shell. So what it does is it comes and it replaces the IP in this script. If I specify another port, it will also change the port to what I've specified. And what else does it do? Then I guess it just copies the duplicate command to my clipboard. So actually, I used to use curl instead of duplicate, and then I did a couple machines, and I was like, whenever I'm in a Docker container, curl usually isn't installed, right? So you try run curl, and then you get nothing back, and then be like, oh, my like I'm not getting a shell back, so it's actually because curl isn't there. So I think wget is normally on most uh machines, even if it's a Docker container. Sometimes you'll even find duplicate isn't there. So normally I just come and do a cut on the file and I grep for RM. So I like using this payload. I normally call it like an overkill one-liner for various reasons. Um, so we're on the box, check our ID, do an ls, there's nothing there. Try look around, right? We could go back to this directory and check whether maybe you can get creds, right? You can see the login directory. So let's see. So there's admin, db, and index, right? So could start by cutting admin. Um, and this is what I was talking about here, right? So it's talking about the user is trying to access the uploads page, and it's doing a check here. So it's saying if the cookie of the user is wait, what? If the cookie of the user is equal to this action. Oh yeah. So it's working with the access ID, as I said. Like so this check is just saying if the cookie, in short, I could add a comment here and say if the user is a guest user, then you say this action it requires superadmin rights, right? Um, because this was the access ID of the guest user, right? And if not, now the user can upload stuff, right? So is there really anything else here? I guess that's pretty much it. Let's look at DB. and we get creds for MySQL database, right? So it says it's running on localhost, the user is robot, and the password is megacop user. I told you guys this password is so common on HackTheBox. Remember the machine I did on Monday, the password was exactly the same, only that it didn't have the user part. Um, yeah, so that's what I've said, like I've seen that password a couple times. So normally, if I'm on a box and I see that the user mentioned here is also a user on the box, that gives me a hint of password reuse, right? So we can cut etsy password and grep for anything ending with sh to check the users on the box, right? So there is indeed a user robot and a user root, right? So this really hints to me that this user might have um, he might have, so maybe it's the root user. He created an account called robot. He used the same password, and then even when he was configuring the MSQL he still used the same password that he used for this user. So that really gives me a hint. You should always, although like even if the user wasn't robot, you should still try like password reuse. Um, if there are a couple of users, you should just try the password out, right? So we could try switch to this user with our password, and now we're robot, right? So the password reuse was really a hint there. Um, yeah, and another thing is the reason I like to do su dash is so that it creates new environment variables. So see, okay, if I do lsla or I do pwd, we're in home robot, right? But what if I didn't add the dash there? If I did it like this, su robot, our pwd is still the one you are in, right? And normally, what are you still doing here, right? So you just want to switch to the user's home directory, right? So that's why I like adding the dash. Just tell it use the new environment variables provided by the user. So I'll do it like that. And if you do lsla, now we can get the user flag. So what next? Normally I'll just run linpiece, but then if we do ID, we can see that this user is part of, the thing I ask myself is how everything was so quiet and then suddenly like someone becomes like unmuted. Is it usually like you're trying to dock someone or anyway? Um so you run ID, you get the UID is robot, and then he has an interesting he's part of this group called bug tracker. So that strikes me. So the thing I normally do is I'll try look for any files owned by the group bug tracker on the file system, right? So if I do that, let's see if we get anything back. It will actually look for any files or directories because I didn't specify what I'm looking for. Not normally find has like a dash type. So if I did type D, I wouldn't get anything back, yeah, because there isn't any directory owned by that group. But then if I do type F, I get back wait, what? I should be getting back the or okay, that's peculiar. Now I've just spoiled what I was trying to explain. But anyway, the best practice is to just do it like this without specifying the type. Just list for me everything that this group owns, right? So I get back what seems to be a binary, and I'm saying it's a binary because this path normally has like binaries. But you could also put like a script here and then just name it without an extension, make it executable, and then you can also just run it as a binary. So it doesn't really mean all files here are binaries. So let's see what it does. So you're asked for a bug ID, right? So if I do like 1 and it prints some text, right? So let's see. what type of file this is. So this is indeed a SUID binary. So you could get this file using two ways. You could do the find group to check the owners, I mean the files owned by the group bug tracker, or you could try look for SUID files. The tricky thing with looking for SUID files is you have to know what files are usually there by default and what files aren't. So it shouldn't take long though, because like for me, I'm usually used to what files are default, right? But then a good way of doing it is running linpies. So once linpies sees that the file isn't a default um, SUID file, it will say unknown SUID binary, and that gives you a hint that, oh, this isn't by default. This isn't on Linux machines by default. So I'm going to copy this file here just to do like static analysis. Let's see. So I'll use NC here. I could also use like SCP, but then let me just use NC. So I'll do it like this. Give it the file, and then we have it, right? So I'll just open a new pane for this. I'll use Radare here. So dash capital A means analyze everything, like do all analysis. And then AFL just prints the functions. So after this, I'll do PDF at main, and that says switch to that. So you could do S main and then do PDF, but then I like to just say switch to the function and then list for me how the function looks like. So like that, instead of doing S main and then PDF. So um, so let's see what this is doing. Normally this is just setting up the stack. Um, at this point, it's setting up a stack frame, and then at this point, it's so the subtraction of OX30, which I think is what 48. Or my math is just terrible. Yep. Um, it's so what this is doing, it's trying to create space for variables. So there are two variables here. There is this one and there's this one. So it's just trying to create space for variables there. Um, I normally ignore this. It's normally default there, and then it's doing an XOR on EX on EX, and that means it's checking for something. Because normally when it does this, it's doing some sort of check, but I don't see any hint of that there so far. And then it's loading this string into RAX, and then let's see what it's doing next. It's moving RAX to RSI, and when I see it doing something like this, like when I see it loading a string into a register and then moving that string to another register, I'll just say like, okay, it's about to call a function that's gonna use the script. So, cause RSI, so like, okay, if we talk about the 64-bit calling convention, um, the first register that passes the first argument is RDI, right? And then the second register is RSI. So that's what I'm saying when I say this. I'm usually like, oh, okay, it's gonna use this somewhere. So let's see, and then it's loading this I guess format specifier into RDI, and then calling printf. So that makes sense. Why? Because printf normally takes a format specifier and then the string, right? So that means since the string is being passed first, then the string is going into RDI, which again I said is the first register, taking the first argument, right? And then this the string it's printing is going into RSI. So that makes sense. And then let's see what it's doing here. It's also gonna print this. I normally don't go reading line by line. Like I can just tell like what it's doing. You can see here it's also loading this format specifier into scanf and then printing out what is it printing out? I think it's reading input. Yeah, because scanf is used to read input. But this is the format specifier that it's using. let's see what else. It's using another format specifier here, and it's printing out something. And then it's doing a get UID. So it's trying to get the effective user ID. That the current that okay, so it's trying to get the effective user ID of the user running the program. So once I run it, it will check, oh, is he running this program as root, as www data, as yeah. So and then it's doing a set UID, and then um it seems to be cutting something from slash root slash reports, and then it's using concat. So the minute I say this, I know exactly what this program is doing, right? So from there, it's just calling system on whatever it concats, right? So in short, if you observed, so that's the reason I ran the program before I start analyzing, because it gives you like as you read, you're trying to recall, okay, so that's why I did this and this. Okay, cool. Um, so really, if you like when we ran it, right? So let's see, we ran it here. Remember, I passed one, and then it did a like it displayed this, right? At least we know that whatever it's displaying, it's in root slash reports, right? So ideally, what it's doing is it's taking the input here and it's concatenating it to this string as a string. So if we put one, it's reading that as a string because remember scanf was using this format specifier, right? So it's doing so if I pass nothing, it's gonna do cat slash reports slash root slash reports, then nothing. So by the time it's being called by system, it's doing cat slash reports, I mean slash root slash reports, and then nothing. So this is good. And then it's just using put char to display the contents of the file, right? So this is interesting. Wait, is it really using put char? I think put char is just like displaying. It's gonna um, it's gonna just print out a new line because system is already displaying the contents of the file in this directory, right? So okay, this is good. So we know at least we know there's a file called one in this directory, right? So when I did this, I discovered there are three ways of doing this. Since this is poorly written C code, um, there are three ways of doing this. The first way would be the minute you see a binary being called and it's not using the full path, right? Like it's doing cat, it's not doing slash bin slash cat. That means you could hijack that binary. Um, eh, it would be different if the binary, like if you're given permission to run the binary using sudo. So the thing about sudo is it uh, the first thing it will do is load a secure path. I'm sure you see like something like the minute you do sudo dash l, you see something like n underscore reset, and then you see secure path, and then stuff like that, right? So that restricts you from doing a path hijack. But guess what? This is a SUID binary, meaning you can hijack the path for this binary since it's not using the full path. Because if we do which cut, it says, oh, it's actually user bin cut. That's interesting. Let me see on the box if it's different. No, on the box it's slash bin slash cut. I think it's an Ubuntu thing to have like slash bin and then yeah. I'm not hating. I was just saying like that's just an Ubuntu. It's an Ubuntu default. So how do we exploit this? Well, it's very easy. If you're talking about path hijack, well, if you come here and do echo $path to show me what's in the path variable or environment variable, actually, it's not just any variable. So we can see that there is user local sbin, user local bin, user sbin, user bin. So here is where it's loading the file, right, in user bin. So really, whenever you run a binary and you don't give it the full path, it will just go checking, okay, is the binary in any of these directories? So this is the environment variable where it just looks for binaries that haven't been provided like a full path. So how do we do this now? So the first thing I'd do is do something like echo bash, I pipe it to cat. So I'm calling the file cat, right? Then the next thing I do, since it's calling this binary, so it thinks, so um okay, let me just talk about the methodology here. So I'm gonna add the current directory to the path, right? So when I call cat, it's going to check, okay, is the file in this path? And then it says, yes, it's here. So, okay, so let me run that because that's the first thing I've seen, right? Um, so this one gets ignored, and then whatever I've passed in front here is what gets run, right? So the reason I'm making it executable is because it's gonna run that as a normal binary, right? But it's actually a bash script. Then the next thing I do now is I play with it, right? So I'd say export path equals to the current directory, right? The backticks just mean um uh whatever is here is just the output of pwd, so that's why I'm using backticks. You could also like do this, but I just like using backticks because it's way easier. And you give it $path. So what does this do? So this tells the path environment variable that I want you to add the current directory to the path uh, environment variable, so that when the minute I call this SUID binary, it will ignore the cat binary in user bin and it will use my own, right? It's a simple a it's a simple privesc uh, methodology, I guess. So we do that, and then now when you do echo path, you see we have home robot, and then the rest of this, right? So the minute I execute the binary and it tries to cut the file, like if I provide one again, so it's gonna try cat slash roots reports one. Remember, I created my own binary called cat, which is actually a bash script that is executing bash, right? It will use mine instead. That's really it. So if we do, we can actually run the binary like this backtracker, just because remember um the path thing. So it will just look for backtracker in any of this, the path. So if we run this, it will ask us for an ID, right? The ID here at this point, we can just provide anything because what you're interested in is the part where it calls cat, right? So you can just do nothing and we are root, right? Really simple. Yeah, so it tried looking for the cat binary, and since we provided our own directory in front of the path environment variable, it used our bash script instead.
And
Eh, cool. So the tricky thing about this, the funny thing I liked about this is the fact that now someone would be in a hurry to say, okay, I'm root now, right? So I can go to slash root, I do an ls, and then I can do a cat root.txt, right? I can easily do this, right? Yeah, and you get nothing back. Even if you do like cat it's a password, you get nothing back, right? Because it's still loading the bash script that you specified. So you're still executing the cat binary, your custom cat binary that you added to the path, right? So the minute I ran cat root.txt, it just executed bash again. So if I do like exit, exit, exit again, okay, now I'm robot again. So we could just run this again, and then the minute we get root, we just get rid of this binary. So now if you go to root, we can cat root.txt. Easy. So I said there are three ways of doing this, right? So the first way was this one. The second way was hilarious because um, if you think about it, if it's doing a cat slash root uh, reports and then appending whatever you give it as the input, then you can control which file you're actually reading, right? And what I mean by this is, um, if we do something like cat var .html, and then you tell it, okay, I shouldn't be here. I really shouldn't be here. Please take me back and cut etsy password. We do cut etsy password, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's the binary is purely coded C code because the input is read as a string. Because if we check the directory where it's getting the reports, right? If you do cd reports, every file here is named as an integer, right? So the best way that the person who came up with this binary should have done is, instead of using the format string s you with scanf, he should have used d to say the input that the user should provide here is an integer and not a string. But since, well, he said, it's just a starting point machine. There's nothing there's nothing too bad there. Cause I bet if this was like an actual live machine, it would be patched in the next an hour or so. Cause it gives you, like, you can do, like, it's so easy to get root like this. So anyway, what was I talking about? So if we exit, we become robot again, right? If we run the binary, and we know that it's doing a cat slash root slash reports, and we know very well, after doing so many starting point machines, Linux machines, we know very well that the root flag is usually in slash root.txt, right? So we could say, you know what, the ID that I want is not one, I want root.txt. And we get it, right? Poorly written code works every time. So the thing it did there was just cut root reports, and then I said, no, I don't want to be there. I want you to cut root.txt. That's okay. So it can't do this because I'm not root, but that's basically what it did. The third thing, the third thing is really, really bad. So the third way of doing this is the easiest actually. So let me see. One sec. Okay. So the third way of doing this is actually a command injection. So you see like how many vulnerabilities arise just because of using the wrong format specifier. Leave alone the path hijack. That one was intended. It was intended to be that way. But then look at the path traversal, the one doing total slash, and then look at now the command injection that I'm about to do. So if we run this, let me open Sublime. We know that by the time, because remember, it's calling system. Let me close this. It's calling system on the concatenated string, right? So by the time it's being passed to system, your input has already been appended there, right? So ideally, if it's doing this and then passing our inputs here, we can get command injection this way. Why? Because in Linux, the way we separate commands is using a semicolon, right? So if I do like id then ls, oh sorry, id semicolon ls, it will run both of those commands, right? And system is invoking bash when it's doing this. So we can ideally do the same thing. So by the time it's being passed to system, we want our concatenated string to look like this. We'll do a and then we do bash. So what will this do? First thing, it will try do the cat reports a, and then it will say no such file is there because we've checked the files that are there, and a isn't one of them, which is fine. But the thing is, instead of, so after trying to do the cat, it's gonna run bash, right? Because we did a semicolon bash. So that's the other stupid way we can get root, right? So we can do a bash and we're root, right? Because we didn't cheat. We are just following what the code is doing, right? Like, you're telling me that you are appending my input as a string and then you're just concatenating it blindly. Well, I could just run bash there by just doing a semicolon and then um yeah. So those are the three ways of doing this. Okay. Um I want us to write what? Uh, what's the word? Sometimes I talk too much and my English just dies. Uh, so we try write a replica of the program, a simple replica, right? So we'll do this in C because it's written in C, right? I just want to show you how the author of this box could have made this code a little secure. So I'll do a.c, and I'm going to use the standard library here. Then I'll use standard IO to print out stuff. Then I'll use string for the concatenation. And then I'll do like int main, and then I'll specify a string for the concatenation. I'll say that's cat root. Or let me just try it in my directory first so that I show you the different vulnerabilities and how we can patch them. Actually, we could like the funny thing is the way we patch the path traversal and the command injection is just the same way. Like the only problem there was using the string specifier instead of using a digit specifier to say that we're passing digits. So yeah, I should specify my own directory now. So just do guess this is good. Okay, and then specify an input variable. I'll say the size is 30, although 30 is too big, but then the reason I've done that is so that we can try out the path traversal and stuff like that, so that we don't have like an indefinite amount of space. Then the next thing I'll do is define the concatenated string variable, and I'll give it like 100 bytes in length. So from here, I'll do exactly what the program is doing. It's saying uh, provide a bug ID, right? So I have this here, and it just if anyone is asking why I'm not using them, I explained this in my other session. Yeah.
Yes,
So
provide bug ID. Yes.
yeah. So then I'll use scanf, just like what the program is doing to read the inputs. So I'll do the string, just like the author did it, right? And then I'm going to use string copy to copy whatever is in string here to the concatenated string variable. So I'll do it like that. And then now I'll print that the concatenated string, let's see, string like this, add a new line, and then do string cut, which is going to concatenate. And then I'll say the concatenated string, which is already this portion, right? And then I give it the input. And then I'll do like system on this to run that just as the program is doing, and then do a return. So let's see. So you can compile this like that. No such file. Oh really? Where's the file? What? Where did I create the file? Machines oopsie. Oh okay. So let's see. So I'm in random, so I need to. So the file is there, so I can just go back here and compile it here. Cool. So we have the our custom binary now, right? That should operate just as the the one on the box, right? So if you do like one, it will say there's no such file or directory called one in this directory that we just made, the random one, right? So let's just create that file real quick, and we'll say this is the first report. So if we run this again, give it one, it tells us this is the first report, right? So we could do the same path traversal and that kind of shenanigans that we did on the box. So I could just go like this. I could try reading my Z shell config file, and it says it's not the, I guess because I didn't have enough dot slashes. So, oops, I just compiled again. So I can just do, okay, go all the way back then, if that makes you happy. Like that. It says not found. Okay, can I do like etsy password? Because at this point, like, I don't know what's up. Etsy password, it says not found. So I guess I have a problem here and I don't really know what it is. Is it
Is
like
it
the buffer
5
size?
or
Yeah, I
so you
think
think
it's
it's the dots?
no, actually it's the buffer size. So that's what you get with
And
C. Yeah, it's the buffer size. So let me switch to, let me not use this. Let me do it here. So to make it more easy to look at things, right? I'll do the random here. I'll copy the binary here. So it was a dot. I'll okay. I'll just copy both of this. So that's the thing with C. Like if you exhaust this buffer size, then it's not gonna work. You could see like the output is truncated. I don't know if you could tell. Like it said the concatenated string is WD and then everything else. So it's just because of the buffer size. I don't want to increase the buffer size because then again, uh, I know Trusty, you can tell this, that if I increase the buffer size, then there's likely gonna be a buffer overflow vulnerability, and I don't want that. I want to make it as realistic as possible. So I'll run this again, and I'll say my Zishell RC file. It still says, wait, where are we? Wait, this is, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So we need to change this to, so now we are in home Magenjutsu random, right? Okay, I was a bit worried at that point. So you need to compile this again and then run it again and then tell it, okay, I need that .gshlrc file. Wait, what? What's going on? Wait. Oh, remember we copied the. I swear to God, this is going really well. I'm not gonna lie. So let's open this. So whatever you compiled, it's still because we copied the file, we were still editing the other file. So we need to change this back. Oh, this is going really well. I guess this is good now, right? This looks good. I hope it looks good. Uh, so we can try this again. So we say .zshlrc and we get my .zshlrc file, right? So if we do like etsy password, we get the etsy password file, right? So how can you patch this? It's very simple. Instead of doing the scanf, this portion here, instead of passing a string, we need to pass an integer. Um, yeah, so that tells the program do not accept a string. So that even if you try like a path traversal, whatever you're passing is a string and it won't work. It will say, please provide an integer. So the check is really easy here. We first change this to int, our variable called input, and we do a check here. So we do if scanf d, we do a pointer to the input, and then we say if that's not equal to 1, then you can say print please provide an integer, right? And then we can do, should we really do a return? I guess we can do a return. It's cool. Um, I need a semicolon here because this is C. Yeah, so what this does is it checks if you provided an input. I guess the one here means it's like you didn't provide an input, meaning scanf didn't really work. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. So yeah, we have this. Let's compile it again and see. It says, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So now that you're passing an input, we need to change how we are concatenating this string, right? So after doing the string copy, because I'm just copying this buffer to the concatenated string variable, right? But then since we're passing an integer, we need to change how we're doing the concatenation. I'll just use sprintf. And what this does is it's gonna append, instead of concatenating, it's appending. So like it's doing something like double quotes, cat home magenjutsu random slash, and then just appending the what? Appending the digit, and then just displaying that as a string. So that helps. So we'll do concatenated string, and then we'll tell it plus the length of the concatenated string that is already there. What this does is it prevents you from overwriting whatever was there already. So if I passed like because it's just taking a buffer here. If I passed I say digit and I say input, uh, our input will overwrite this buffer. So that's why we're doing the plus string length of concatenated input in string. So that looks good. And now that we have already appended the digit to the string, we don't need to do this string cut part, right? Because the string is already part of the concatenated string. I mean, the digit is part of the concatenated string already. So here we'll just have concatenated string, right? So let's compile this. And we say, let's do my name, right? My alien alias that you people don't like. I'm kidding. So it says, please provide an integer. Oh yeah, and here I could do like, I could do it like this, just to make it look cleaner. So if I say nothing, it says, please provide an integer, right? So if I try do the path traversal, it says, please provide an integer. If I try, read the password, still path traversal, please provide an integer. If I try the command injection, if I say a bash, it says, please provide an integer. Cool. So we've patched that whole the vulnerability going on for both the path traversal and the command injection. So that's good. What else can we do here? Let's see. So what did I want to do here? So here, I just wanted to talk about the UIDs. So like you have there are three types of UIDs on Linux. There is the real UID, and the real UID just means who is running the process, right? So the minute I type ls, right? Um, I'm running that as Magenjutsu, right? Like that's the user that's running ls, right? So that's the real UID. Then the EUID, or the effective um, user ID, is the one that now is used when we're looking at SUID files, right? So it's the one that's going to validate, can this user do this and this, right? So um, if so I guess let me check my real user ID right now. So I can do that by using stat, and then I just say proc cmd line. So this is my real user ID, and this is my real group ID. So what I was talking about is the minute you create an SUID file as root. Okay, let's talk about root. So root creates an SUID file so that another user can use that file to run commands as him, right? So what happens is um the SUID. Okay, so I didn't talk about SUID, so I'll still at UID. Let me skip that and talk about SUID. SUID, I like to term it as saved user ID. So the reason I'm saying saved is because it's saving your privileges as that user, so that another user, when another low privileged user runs the binary, he runs it with your permissions, right? So that's why I like calling it the saved user ID. So now I was talking about EUID. So the thing is, the minute you create an SUID file, the EUID becomes the UID of the user who created the what? Who created the SUID binary, right? So if I create a binary as root and I make it SUID, and I mark it owned by me, then the minute I'm running the SUID file as a low privileged user, my effective user ID becomes that of the person who owns the file, right? And that, in simple terms, means if I create an SUID file for find, I mark it owned by root and I make it SUID. That means the minute a low privileged user like me runs it, I'll be able to run find as root, right? And that's where we go to GTA4 bins, and you can do like find dot dash exec bin bash and backslash semicolon to dev null and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So now what do we do here now? Um, I want to let's try uh recreate the thought process when you are doing the box, right? So in root there was reports, right? I don't have modal there, so I'll just do reports. Then in reports there were three files, right? So I'll do this is the first report, then this is the second report, and this is the third report, right? So we have those files there. Cool. So what I want us to do ideally is I want you to kind of understand the reason why. I know, like, if you've interacted with C files and a custom C file being an SUID file, you always notice there's usually this line here, set UID 0, yeah? So why is this line usually here, yet the binary is already an SUID file, right? And we already said that the minute you're running the binary, the UID becomes that of the person who owns the file, right? So why do we always have to add set UID 0, right? So that's what I'm trying to explain here. So let's see. So what do we want to do next? I want to add a few. I want to add a few things here. I'll do GNU source, and I'll do unistandard. So what I want to do is I want to print all the UIDs right before I run system. So I want to print, okay, what's the relative use ID, what's the effective use ID, what's the SUID, the minute I'm running this binary, right? So I'll do UIDT, I do this, SUID, and then I can do a print. I say the real user ID is a digit. The EUID is also. I hope this is clear. I'm not sure how clear this is. Let me maybe just add. Yeah, I think that's good. And then what else? The SUID, right? So make it a decimal, yeah, and then I just add on to this. So it's gonna print the values of this. Oops. Then the thing that I haven't done is now querying these values, because I don't know what these values are. Because just doing this doesn't mean that the values will just be there. I have to query them and get them, right. So I'll do get RESUID. So that means RUID. I don't know why R for some reason. I feel like saying relative all the time. So it's RUID, EUID, SUID, and then UID. And I'll say a pointer to RUID, a pointer to EUID, and a pointer to SUID. So this looks good. We can compile this. So I'm going to run this and say 1. And you can see, okay, I need to add a new line here for it to look good. So if I provide an ID, it says the relative user ID is 1,000, which is true because because when we ran the start command, we saw that was in fact the value. Then the EUID is 1,000 and the SUID is 1,000. So why is there an SUID value and yet the file you're running isn't an SUID? Well, SUID values are always there. It just depends on who set the value. So I can set a value for a file that can be accessed by my user as root, but then I set it as SUID. So actually, setting a file as SUID doesn't mean you're making it SUID. As in, it doesn't mean the file originally wasn't SUID. It just means you're making it SUID as you, like you as the user making it SUID. If that makes sense. So if I'm root making a file SUID, that only means I'm changing the value of the this value of SUID to something else. That's basically what it means. You can't really categorize binaries as SUID, not SUID. No, I don't think that's a thing. So yeah, um, and I just noticed. So let me just get rid of this, or just add a space here. So what do you want to do next? So next, what I want us to do is I want us to make this binary an SUID binary and see whether we can cut the contents of whatever is in slash root slash reports and then any file that we want there, right? So I'll change this to root reports because we created that directory, right? If I go back and I say reports, we have those files, right? So that's basically what I want us to do. So I guess that's good. So the only thing left to do is maybe we actually I can just do it with sudo. So I do chon. Yep, I had the autocomplete like that. I typed the wrong password, didn't I? Yeah. And then after doing the so the file is owned by root. Remember, this is important because of the EUID. The owner of the file sets the EUID of the binary once it's being ran, and what that does is gives you the privileges of the user who set the binary as SUID. Okay, and then the next thing I do is make it an SUID binary, right? And then I can try run this, right? It should work. Like I should be able to like cut roots reports one, right? So the minute I do one, uh, let's see, it's still cutting out. Wait, what? Did I? Oh, I didn't recompile it, did I? Oh, sorry. So I need to recompile this and then make it owned by root and then mark it, give it the setUID bit for the root user. And then now I can run it and try. I give it one and try see if it will cut root reports one, right? So, okay. We have a few things here. The first thing is our relative user ID is 1000. Our effective user ID is 0 and SUID is 0. So you notice that these two values most of the time will be the same. Why? Because um, the so one, the SUID is 0 because the user ID of so like the user ID of the root user is usually 0, right? Then the reason the EUID is 0 is because remember I said when you're running the file, the EUID will be influenced by who owns the file, right? So since root owns the file, then the EUID becomes 0. Then our relative user ID normally doesn't change because that's the real user ID, like who is running the binary, who really is running the binary, right? So that's still me. I'm the one running the binary, but that doesn't matter because since it's SUID, this EUID portion of it is the one that's giving me access to cut root reports one, right? And guess what? It says permission denied. So why did it say permission denied? Because this should really work, right? So the thing is, there are things we call syscalls. Syscalls are just, how you query the system and you want to tell it I want to run a process. So the thing is, there's this syscall called execCVE. I know if you do a lot of pawn stuff, I know you've interacted with it. And the thing is, what happens is the minute you call that syscall, the EUID is left unchanged. Like the EUID doesn't change. So I know you can't say that at this point. You can only say that, like, the only way to say that actually, can you really say that really? If we do like, let's try query this after we run system. No, you can't really say that because it only changes the minute you're running the binary. So, I mean, not the minute you're running the binary. It only changes the moment you use that syscall. So execCVE is the one that controls like you're trying to execute something, right? Exec, like from the name, like it's like this, yeah. ExecCVE, like this. So it's an exec call trying to execute something, right? So usually system is a syscall under uh, execCVE. I don't know why it's so hard to say that. I need uh I think I need to do more point challenges so that I can get used to saying it. Anyway, system is a syscall under execCVE. Oh my god. And how it runs is it runs as a fork of this process. So execCVE is the parent process, then system becomes a child process of it. So it still gets affected. So it still affects the UID when you run this. So the reason I'm getting a permission denied is because the minute you're calling this syscall, what it's doing is it's influencing the value of the effective user ID to not change. So the minute it's calling system and system it's running cat root reports one, the value of the effective user ID won't change, and that's why we get a permission denied. So that's what I wanted to explain. Um, so the easiest way of doing this is creating a custom function that will read the file. You know, it's funny because you have the privileges to read this file, but you can't just because of this syscall, literally. So if you create a function to read the file instead of calling execCVE, you can actually read the file. So I found that really interesting, and at least that's why I understood why we have to do the set UID 0. So the other thing I'll talk about is okay. So the minute you do a set, so the minute you add this set UID 0, most of the people think that set UID 0 will change the value of what? It will change the value of the effective user ID, right? It will change this value when you're calling this syscall. It will change the value of UID to 0. Actually, what it does is it will set the value of each of these UIDs to 0. So the thing is, set UID 0, there's no difference between set UID 0 and set RESUID 000. There's no difference between these two. Because what set UID does, it sets each of these values to 0 the minute you're running this syscall, which helps you cut that file, right? And the set res UID, let me just call it that. It's setting, so you're the one influencing these values. If I change this to 1,000, oops, then UID would be 1,000, and then the rest would be 00, which actually wouldn't help because if the EUID is 1,000, then I can't cut the file, right? So I'm just saying there's no difference between set RSUID and set UID. So don't think that set UID changes the value of UID to 0, and that's how you're able to do things as root. It actually influences all these user IDs. So let's see, the minute I add set UID 0, I can now cut the file, right? So if I compile this, I make it on by root, I make it a set UID bit file, I run this, I say 1, and we can see the content of the root reports 1, right? So that's the thing I wanted to explain. I found it really interesting, to be honest. Anyway, what was I talking about? I was saying, instead of using the syscall that's disallowing us to read this file as root, we can just create a custom function to just read the file. Because really, the minute the minute we are running this file up to this point where we're doing the syscall, we have root privileges. So I'm going to create a function here called read file, and I'll just create a pointer to a file so that I can pass it to the function called file, and then I'll create a file descriptor here, and I'll say open the file, and I'll give it read access because I just want to read the file. Then I'll specify a buffer size here. So buff size, I'll do 100. So with this now, I can just change this to buff size and then come back here and say buff size. And then what else will I do here? So here I'll do a check. Here I want to do a statement, an if statement, and say if the file pointer comes back with null, that means I wasn't able to read the file, right? And it will say error, maybe it can say error opening the file or something. So I just want to do a simple check there, just for, just a simple check. I'll say if the file pointer is equal to null, then print that error, or just say I was unable to read the file. Just say that, right? Um, I guess I'll do a new line here to make it look good. Then I do a return. Then you can continue with this. And is there really anything else to do? Yeah. So now we are reading the file. So creating a file descriptor doesn't mean you've already read the file. You're just creating that descriptor, right? So that you can use it in another function. So we can do an fread, and this takes a buffer. So this is why I created a buffer here, right? So, oops. Give it a buffer. The next thing we'll give it is the size of each block to read. So there isn't really any fancy way of doing this. I like to just do size of char. And if you've interacted with C code, you know that the size of a character in the 64-bit machine is 1, right? And I think also on 32-bit machines, I don't think it changes. I think the int one changes. So I'll do that. So in short, what this means is it's reading one character at a time, which is not bad. I mean, it's just simple SQL as long as it works, right? So the next thing I'll give it is the like um how much bytes of data do you want to read? So I'll just say size of buffer. And what this says is even though I'll pass, let's say I'll pass one, yeah, because one has the value of one. I'll just read the whole thing just because in case I want to read something longer, it will still read that, right? Then I'll just give it the file pointer, right? Is there anything else to do here? I think we can just print the buffer since we copied. So what fret does is as it's reading data from the file pointer, it will a let me say it will dump the contents to this buffer um, variable. So when you're printing the data, we'll print the buffer. This is the one that has the content. So I'll do printf. This is not Python. I know I'm a fan of Python, but I'm in another territory at this moment. So this looks good, I guess. So the only thing we need to change here is what do you need to change here? Let's see. So the first thing we'll change is the string, yeah, because we are not uh, we are not executing a command. We're just reading a file, so we don't need the cut part there, right? So what else? String length, input, blah blah blah. So I guess that's okay, really. Actually, I need to call my function, right? Because I'm not doing system. I need to call it at this point, yeah? So I'll do read file and I give it the file, right? Or actually concatenated string is what I want to give it because the minute I supply my input here, right, we are going to concatenate, we are going to, like the concatenation part is still the same. Whatever we pass to it, it's going to be concatenated to the variable concatenated string. And then now we want to read that. So for example, if I pass 1, the concatenated string would be root reports 1, right? So I guess that looks good.
Bit.
Yeah?
Does it? Oh yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't seeing the string copy. Sorry.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So we get an error. What error is this? Oh, let's see. I did a semicolon here instead of a comma. That looks good. So the idea here is I'm trying to tell you that it's a bad idea to use a syscall with SUID files, right? Yeah, so what you should expect here is the minute I make it on by root and I make it an SUID file, I should be able to now read the the contents of root reports one. Like nothing else has changed literally. The only thing that's changed is instead of doing this system, this syscall here, I'm doing read file, my custom function to read the file, right? So we already compiled it, I guess. And so we make it on by root. We mark it as SUID. We run the file. We say one, and we get the contents. See, like there's nothing that changed here, right? Like it's still the same. The RUID is me, Makenjutsu, who is running the file. The UID is 0 because the file is on by root. Then the SUID is 0 because root is on, we give it the SUID privileges, right? So we can read all the files in root reports that way. So that's just what I wanted to explain after talking about the different vulnerabilities that the file on the box had and the matter of UIDs when it comes to set UID files. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's the reason in a set UID file you'll see this line set UID 0. Just to tell it, the moment you're running this syscall system, just run it as root. I don't want you to I don't want you to leave the value of the UID unchanged. And actually, that's the same reason. Uh, I'm sure for those who have done a couple machines, right? People like Winter, they like the minute they notice like a cron job, right? And it's running a specific script, yeah? They'll do like chmod u plus s bin bash, right? So have you ever asked yourself the reason why you do the bash minus p? Why don't you just run bash? Why can't you just run bash and get root? Since bash is the set your default, right? It's the same reason. So I'm guessing bash also uses a couple, I'm sure it uses a couple XXCVE syscalls. So the reason you do minus p is if you don't do minus p, the value of the UID is reset to your to the value of the RUID. So what does that mean? If bash is a setUID file and you don't do the minus p, then it resets this value, the UID, just as it's behaving here. It resets this value to the value of the RUID. So if you just run bash, you're still the same user. Sorry, because uh, it has reset this value. So now by the time you're executing it, it's 1,000, and then 0, and that won't help you because EUID is what tells the system this guy has the capabilities of running commands as the root user. Yeah. So when you do minus p, it prevents it from resetting the value. So now um, you get your effective user ID as root. Yeah. Yeah, so that was the session. Are there any questions?
No.
A lot of questions.
On, on my end, I have some few.
Uh-huh.
Let me start from the first part where you transferred file. I don't know if you had actually explained how you transfer that file. You did a netcut and then -w for 3. Now that option there, never used it before, and I wanted you to like explain it a bit. The other question was,
Wait.
and
Let me talk of each question one by one so that I don't
okay,
forget. Yeah. So you were saying like when I copied the file, I did on the box I did dash w3 and then I passed the IP and then I gave it the file which was user bin bug tracker, right? And then I did NC like this. So I do this. So this actually means wait. So wait 3 seconds. So the reason I do this is because if like I've messed up somewhere, let's say the port I specified here was 443 and the port I specified here is 9001, the file will never get back here. So I don't want it to just hang there, trying to cheat me that the file is being copied, yet it's not. So just do it for like error checking. Um, yeah, that's basically it really. Just wait for 3 seconds. If you are getting nothing back, just stop what you're doing, pretty much. What was the second
Sweet.
question? Mm-hmm.
The second question was related to the SUID, right?
Uh-huh.
When you when a syscall is called, right? When you
Uh-huh.
have a syscall on your C binary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking, how exactly does it set that? Does it like prevent it from running as a SUID? Is it that it's forked and it's run as a child process of whoever is running that, or how does that work? Because I was trying to understand that part mostly. How exactly does the syscall itself, how do they prevent all this? How, why must we do a SUID again on the file so that it sets all the EID and UID and SUID to 0, right? So what happens? Because when you say bash p, imagine I always do that, but I've never
But
actually
you've never
looked at the
understood.
man page.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, so I was like, does that P mean parent? Because when we are talking about forking and there's a child process, does it
Yes.
mean that don't run bash as a child
Y-
process, but run it as a parent process? Yeah.
Ah,
Or just plain, I'm confused a bit.
okay, okay. I'm not entirely sure what that flag is supposed to be. But I liked the part where you said, so why does the syscall try, like, why does it do that whole resetting thing, yeah, if you don't specify the
Yeah.
SUID bit, yeah? So the thing is, when you run a syscall and um and let's say there wasn't that aspect of setting, if you haven't set the SUID, I mean, if you haven't done the set UID part, the reason it does that is because imagine if um so once again, system in itself, it is a syscall, but it's running as a child process of XXV, right? So imagine if you ran the binary a couple times and each time there are a number of child processes that are being ran. So a number of child processes are being forked from the parent process. So you have all these child processes that are running as root. And I guess the thing about that is if you go extremely low level, this could be a vulnerability because you have a number of Jesus Christ. You have a number of oh my god, I'm going to edit that out. You have a number of child processes running as root. So I guess it's just like it's a what? It's just like a security what do you call it? You're trying to make it safer. Yeah, like you don't want a number of child processes being ran as root. So yeah, you're working with one process. If that so actually the minute you exit out of that process, it will switch back your effective user ID. So when you're running the binary, the effective user ID is 0. Then when you switch back, when you like exit the process, your effective user ID, if you check it again, it's 1,000, right? So yeah, there's I guess it's just like what it's just that word isn't coming out, I swear to God. It's just to make it safer. To like yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, but yeah, in terms of Bash, I don't really know what the TACP is all about. TACP, as in, I don't know, like, quite, I can't point P to a specific word. Um, my best guess is, oh, yeah, 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 TACP. Actually, I can. TACP means prevent. TACP actually means prevent. Because if it's not there, it will reset the value of the EUID to your RUID, right? And when it's there, you're telling it, no, I'm okay. I really want to run this as root. Yeah. So I want to run the syscall as root. So it actually means prevent, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, pretty much. I don't know if that has made sense. Probably you could read more on the aspect of it resetting the UID if you haven't specified. You could tell me if it has
Okay,
made sense.
so
Uh-huh.
it does
Kinda.
made sense. So
Uh-huh.
it has made sense a
Okay,
lot.
okay,
So the
okay.
question is,
Mm-hmm.
from because in Linux, like most of the binaries are written in C, right?
Uh-huh.
So does it mean that the rest of the binaries that doesn't need any additional options for it to prevent resetting of the UIDs, they have the set UID, uh, they have like the set UID in C code in the binary written, like when the code was being written, the set UID to 0 was actually written in it before it was compiled, or is it that they work differently?
I'm gonna say because I actually thought about this because let's actually look at GTA 4 bins. Let's look at the find because I know find it usually has an interesting SUID. Um, oh, I'm actually looking at find. So let's see SUID. So let's see. Um, let me read this. If you use the omit the p argument on systems that allow S shell to run with such AD privileges. Yeah, I'd say they, I just say they run differently. Because you can see even here, find is using the tag p prevent because it's invoking bash. Um, actually, no. Wait. Find, find isn't the
Is
one with the tag
executing
p
bash.
option.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bash that is being executed with tag p. So I'm guessing bash is the only SHID binary that you need to run with tag p because I guess it uses a couple syscalls, I guess. That's how I'd put it really. Because now seeing this, it really means bash is the one that has that issue with uh, syscalls. So it has to do the tag p to prevent the EID being reset to the RUID, if that makes sense.
Cool. It makes a lot of sense.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
it. Uh, who else has other questions? Any other questions? You don't want to ask how John Collins rapidly went from running C to, uh, writing Python to writing C?
Beginner
Actually,
to insane.
no, actually, I've been writing C for like the past 5 months. There's this program called ALX, and I know many guys. I started out with many guys, people like Trusty. Trusty started like 2 months after me, and he gave up after the second week.
I wanted to ask why you speaking in past tense, but that answers me.
Yeah, so the assignments, they usually give us too many assignments, but I'm able to keep up just because what I ensured was the, okay, I guess there are like three sections of the whole program. There's section one, section two, section three. So what I made sure was, because section one was the easy one, the assignments there were easy, even though there were also many. I ensured that in each of the assignments, I got 200%. Um, and 200% because they give you like additional tasks that are optional. But when you do them, you also gain points from that. So uh, the program is like this. So you need like 80% to graduate. So with 200% and like, okay, I didn't get 200. I have like 194. There's some assignments that that I fumbled, but I have like 194 and then 154. And then section three, I have like 74. So the average there is like what, 130 something? Um, yeah, so I don't really do those assignments these days. But my point was, you will interact with C proper. Trust me, when you do that program. So yeah, I mean, uh, I was watching a video. Let me just share that video. I was watching a video, and so you see, like this question of which programming language should I learn? Is programming necessary for cybersecurity? Blah 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 blah. I really liked the explanation of this guy. Okay, so apparently I'm not logged into I'm not logged into my account here, so ignore the whole Kenyan branding that's going on there. Let's see.
I won't let that go. I'm not letting that go.
It's because I'm not logged in. Like it's usually like that. Like if you install a browser and you go to YouTube, you'll get the same thing. I I got used to it in school. Um, yeah, let's see. Where is this? There's a talk here by GF96. Where is this guy? What the hell? Okay, let me check it from here, from my Windows machine. So this guy, he was asked the same question because like it's a common question, yeah. Do I need coding for cybersecurity? And the way this guy explained it was phenomenal. Like I liked how he really put it. And if you play CTFs, I'm pretty sure you know this team called Perfect Blue. He's the captain of Perfect Blue, so that's not a surprise really. Uh, you should really watch that video. Um, yeah. So yeah. The way he explained it was in terms of a lawyer. Like you'd notice, lawyers, like what did they call it? The Let me call it master subject, but that's really not that's not the term. But the master subject for people in law is English, yeah, because they need to understand the context. Like that's the language that's like English is the language that's used for like policies, CG section one, CG what. Um, yeah, so he explained it the same way. If you're a security person and you're reading code, you need to think like the attacker. You need to know how to patch the code. Yeah, stuff like that. So, yeah, you should really watch that video. Yes, and I'm done talking. Using cat would have been easier to transfer the file to your machine. Using cat. Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah.
That is actually interesting. I always use netcat, or I just use SCP if I have the password for the user. Yeah. Ah, cat. Okay, cat's interesting. That's cool. Ah, this is IPSEC's way of doing it. Yeah, you got a point, but
It's still
let
the
me.
same
Yeah,
though.
yeah, it's still the same thing really. You're passing the file over the socket, and netcat also makes
Mm.
like spawns a socket, so it's really the same thing. That's why I always talk about
And
preference. It's easier. Not really. Like you
uh,
can't really say it's easier. Like by the time I've done cut the file dev TCP the IP slash the port zero there's like bro um I find like
and
netcat easier.
plus now that I've understood, like you can add options to netcat when you're transferring files. I only knew
Mm-hmm.
how to transfer it without that tag W. Now that I
Ah
can add delays, that actually makes it more stealthy, you see?
yeah
Because
yeah
if you make
exactly.
it to send it in with delays, like
Uh-huh.
even if somebody was monitoring,
Uh-huh.
you can make a large delay that sends the file, let's after 10 seconds or wait for 10 seconds.
Yeah,
Unlike cat, which will send the
which
entire
will send,
blob.
yeah, and actually a blue teamer will be able to see that going on since you're
Yeah,
using dev TCP. Like he could be able to see that in proc. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean it's still a good way of doing it. I like using it when like it's an easy way of doing a port scan. So if you're going really what's the word? If you're going really what's the word for this? If you're living off the land, like kabisa kabisa, that's a really good way of doing a port scan. Um, yeah. So wait, why am I hearing myself?
Just the sec, this.
Okay, okay. So I've enjoyed
Okay.
the session, full of interesting content. Awesome. I'm glad you did. Um, I really need to, I just felt like I should explain that bit of syscalls. Uh, yeah. Any bin
Well,
XP resources? Eh, place ETFs. Get like hack the box. Actually, thank you for asking that because I really liked this playlist by CryptoCats on the binary exploitation track for hack the box. Let me just share that. Yeah, so you could get like a VIP for hack the box, and then you try out the pawn challenges from there. He has a really good explanation for such challenges. Huh.
sweet. Anyway, thank you, Joe. Thank you a lot because I know C, personally, I know C, but what I've learned today is totally different. Well,
Uh-huh. I'm glad.
because I,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I knew how syscalls work,
Uh-huh.
but now that part of SUID, I've seen it in most hack-the-box machines, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to you analyzing a binary with SUID, right? That like the last box, the Saturday's box,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it
Oh yeah,
had,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it
It
had
had
that.
yeah, it had the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been just ignoring it. In fact, I was telling why this one means it's setting the UID to 0. So setting a UID. And then now that I understand, already it was set, the set ID was set by root, but now in the script was just to make syscall, not to reset them, right? Thank you so
Y-
much.
Yeah, like most people
Hackbo,
just run bash minus p and like as in, like how you can know something but you don't know the backend story of it. So guys like just run bash
exactly.
minus p. Okay, I know this will execute it as root. They don't know the backstory.
Thank
So
you, man.
yeah,
Thank you, man. If I had missed this session, then ningelia to Coach Holmes. Thanks so much.
you're welcome. Someone
Thanks.
says
It was a
realized I know nothing again. Yeah, that's something really common in what in security.
cybersec.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like an example is I was watching Ipsek's video of the box I mean the video he released on Saturday. The way he got user, I mean the way he got the shell is totally different from how I got the shell. But then the thing is, I learned something from what he was doing because I'm not that good with far deserialization, but I learned something from what he was doing. So yeah, and on
It
top of
is.
that, yeah,
Oh, I want to just say it is really common to learn you don't know much because
yeah,
even me,
uh-huh,
these few days I was arguing with Waits about cover roasting and desync attacks and all that.
uh-huh,
When I went back to reading it, I realized I don't know anything. So from that point, I've just been installing a Windows server just to set it up and understand that again. You see, with that little knowledge I believed I knew in AD, that can make me be relaxed and say, AD ki come, I know I can just, especially in a real world scenario, I'll say, AD, if AD comes, I know it's just these low hanging fruits I can go for.
yeah,
But now,
exactly,
when
uh-huh,
challenged me, and I realized that when it came to DC Sync, which
uh-huh,
was used for golden ticket, I
uh-huh,
knew golden
using yeah,
ticket.
as for you to self and all, yeah, and all those things.
Yeah, yeah, that's when I realized golden ticket wasn't for privilege escalation. It wasn't for it. What it was for persistence. And I'm like,
Exactly.
my whole life has been a lie. Yeah.
Cool.
Just realize you don't know something,
Yeah, that feeling
but it
sometimes
was
is,
great.
yeah, it's usually the best feeling, really, when you learn something and you're like, oh, I didn't know this, and this is really cool.
Yo,
Yeah.
Winter.
Yo.
Maybe to complement, or maybe something I've been doing lately. Uh, I found a better way to learn AD is looking at the notes that Bloodhound gives you. The attack paths, explanation about how an attack works, if it's DC sync, if it's copy roasting. It has some good notes. Maybe you can also check that.
Bloodhound.
Yeah. Is it blood? Yeah, bloodhound. When you're looking at what do they call paths? So there's a way you can click on
Oh,
more information, and then it gives you very nice notes and maybe good resources on the same.
Yeah, but then on top of
Yeah,
what you said, that's I can't really say that's a solid way of learning. Like, what if
that is
Bloodhound
that
doesn't
is
give you anything back? You have to like,
exactly.
yeah, get creative.
Uh,
But yes, it is also like, yeah, you can
if
also
you have
learn
some,
from the data. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, if you have some type of working knowledge on the same around AD, I think that should be like a quick note ama kitu ya kukumbusha haraka haraka.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure. Good point. Yeah. Nice.
the session was awesome though.
Thanks. Anyone who has a
my,
question? Trusty, you've unmuted your mic so that we can hear you chatting with your gardens. Oh, well, actually, Trusty, tell us about ALX.
Yeah, but I'd
what
love to know
happened?
about ALX.
What happened, Trust?
What happened, Trusty? Wait, can you really? Oh, Trusty, we can't hear you. Sorry.
I'm seeing Trusty is talking, but
Yeah, but yeah, we can't hear him. And it's sad because his mic is worth $90.
I, wa- I wanted, I wanted, I wanted to comment on that. Yeah.
well, Trusty,
Trusty.
or probably he's on what's it called? This other mode, yeah, or Discord. Push to talk.
Trusty, that is
Trusty is on push to talk.
$90.
I think
Yeah.
he's fixing his mic.
Okay. Any question? I guess there's no other question.
Oh, John.
Yeah,
Well, at it, I don't know whether you stopped the recording.
I stopped. No, I didn't stop. I usually record
Okay.
all the way. Yeah, because this part is
All
also
right, no problem.
important
So,
if I'm sharing like a resource or something.
sure. Probably you can share a link to the YouTube channel, and guys can maybe get to subscribe and catch up with some sessions that we did in the past.
Yeah, for sure. Let me just do that, although it has been shared a couple times.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody else has any question. I'm seeing guys are leaving, so probably we can wind up, and then anybody who wants to be left behind for a chat can just be left behind.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to unmute and say something, or maybe you can just type in chat. Uh, you're welcome.
Okay, yeah, I guess we can wrap it up, Oste, since Phrase isn't here.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for joining today's session. Personally, I learned something. Hope the rest learned something as well. Having no questions means either people walielewa or people floated. But either way, hakuna any questions. So thanks, guys. See you again. Yeah.
The problem is starting point turned out to be hack the box insane machine. That's the problem there. The
But I
moment,
did,
the
but I
moment
did
we
explain things properly, didn't I?
yeah, you did, but most of people here I can say they're beginners, right? And when you went C mode, I am sure, I am sure. The reason why there's less questions is because maybe they have to review these later after they maybe read more on what we were talking about, especially things to do with SUID.
Mhm.
So I think people have learned a lot, but now the questions, the questions,
Yeah,
Remember,
you're
I
like,
feel like
you,
you can't ask a question
yeah,
directly. You can
uh,
always DM John.
yeah,
John is
yeah.
nice. You can even do a private session. So
Eh?
Depending on his availability.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was worried. Anyway, yeah.
Depending on.
John, I'm gonna try.
There's someone
Some
here.
IDs are given priority.
Wait,
Anyway, it was nice, guys. You guys can live at your own pleasure. If you want to be left behind, unaweza bakia, we just chat or we do something. I don't know.
yeah. So okay. For me, it's I'm gonna go off. I got other agendas. Yeah. So
Yes, yes. Bye bye. Bye bye. Tunajua bye bye. We know.
yeah.
Oh,
So
I can see. I can see.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So good night, guys. Take care. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.